Hello, Dr. James.
So excited to be able to celebrate
your 100th episode
of the Dr. James Show.
Congratulations, Dr. James.
Man, I am so happy for you.
You are a man of action.
Only you can bring people from around the country together.
It was such an honor for me to be on your show.
You've done a wonderful job of just engaging all of us in the conversations that are so necessary.
So uplifting, so optimistic. We need it now more than ever.
You're always looking to help somebody out.
Make an impact on so many people's lives.
You help us all to just tap back into our best selves.
Thank you for making us all smarter and more authentic.
Thank you for letting us journey with you.
It's a great accomplishment.
It's something you should be extremely proud of.
Keep up the good work.
Many blessings for the next 100.
Love you, bro.
Love that I call you a friend.
Thanks a lot.
Congratulations, my friend. You deserve it.
Hey, good afternoon. Good afternoon, and welcome back to another episode of the Dr. James Show. I am Dr. James Smith Jr., and of course, I'm thrilled to be here. Why? We got another phenomenal guest who will be sharing thoughts, wisdom, tools, and some compelling ideas around financial literacy, accounting, economics, money. Yeah, you came to the right place, and I hope you brought someone with you to take advantage of this opportunity today. So buckle up, get ready. We're talking all things finances, and today we have Dr. Wayne Williams, who is an associate professor of accounting at the Temple Fox School of Business, and while he's at Temple, he's also one of the decision makers with the DBA program, Doctor of Business Administration. And I was a member of that program, graduated several years ago, but now he is one of the people who is driving that DBA bus. Why don't you come on out, join us on the Dr. James Show, Dr. Wayne Williams. Great to have you on the show. How are you, sir? How are you?
Wonderful, Dr. James Smith. It is a pleasure to be here with you today.
I'm
super excited.
Something told me if you were at Temple when I was in the program, you wouldn't have let me graduate.
Listen, you are an indomitable force. There's no way that would not have happened. So, I'm just happy to be able to sometimes be a faculty member that supports the success of students that are coming through that program. Temple has done a lot of things to create different opportunities to pursue learning, and to get a doctorate degree from a school like that means you are a very accomplished individual. So your dissertation must have been one mean machine. So I'm privileged to be here. I'm calling you Dr. Smith.
It is great to have. My research was on authenticity at work, the role authenticity plays in the workplace. I'll have to share it with you sometime. You mentioned higher education. What's changed? I mean, so much in the past 2 years, pandemic centric, has changed in our society, and things that were changing prior to them as well. But as you consider education, higher education, what are some of the things that have changed, and how has it impacted how you think, how you facilitate, how you educate, how you mentor and coach others?
So I think the most obvious change is the way that you and I are conducting the interview. Right?
Yes.
And so the effect on higher education is really, in my mind, the indirect effect that most people don't realize. So higher education before the pandemic was vibrant. throughout the United States. As a matter of fact, I would argue that the best export that the United States has in all of its great things that we do here in the US is our education. People pursue their degree from all over the world by coming to the United States because of the type of higher education that they receive. So we have a beautiful educational system. Unlike some of the European systems, it's more rote learning. In the US, it's more towards innovation, critical thinking, being able to explore how to solve problems, right? So, and exploring an idea of authenticity, being able to give definition to that term, understanding workplace dynamics in your dissertation and how you show up in that workplace. That is a different kind of approach than what you may find in some of the international scholarship. So you adding to the literature is something that we do differently here in the US. So the higher education, the pandemic had an impact on all education. We were vibrant and we had a very international community. But once the pandemic hit, everybody went back towards their home countries, if you remember. So everybody went back to their home country. So now the pool of students that we have in higher education has changed dramatically. So we have less international students on our campuses post-pandemic. And simultaneously, that gives an opportunity for students in the US to come into the higher education realm, but the pandemic had a dampening effect on the economy. So it made it less affordable for a lot of people who would ordinarily go to school.
Sure.
The other part that has nothing to do with economics or changes or the pandemic is demographics. So everybody knows millennials, and the reason we talk about millennials so much is because they are the byproduct of the baby boomers.
Yes. So
they are the echo boomers. So we created systems that were accommodating the baby boomers, this next two generations away, Generation X in between. The baby boomers started to come to college, and we had to expand our capacity to accommodate the millennials.
Sure.
Well, following the millennials is a smaller cohort of US citizens. So it's not as many students.
Right.
So enrollment challenges have become the biggest priority for colleges and universities. How are we going to get more students into the pipeline? So when we look in the pipeline, going away from the college and universities, high school education, public schools have had a unique phenomenon happen to them where the number of students that returned back to the online environment in that fall of 2020 dropped tremendously. And then it continued to decline over time. So about 25 to 30% in some places of students in high school did not return back to high school.
Wow.
Right? So you've got community colleges also took a tremendous hit. And when you're at a public-private university like Temple University, a state-affiliated university, our pool, 40% of our students come from community colleges. So a lot of people in our undergraduate programs are transferring either from other universities or they're coming from the community colleges. Here in Philadelphia, we're rich in higher education. So we've got Bucks County, Montgomery County, Delaware County, Community College of Philadelphia is the bigger feeder schools that are coming into Temple University, as well as those that are coming straight from high school, as well as those that are transferring or coming from other states. So Temple is a unique and important asset to the Philadelphia economy. It's the 6th largest employer. And so, anytime there's a question about enrollment, that's a big concern for the Philadelphia economy. So in the higher education pool, there's less people who are in that pool of students that potentially could go to college. So my greatest concern, Dr. Smith, is how do we encourage those students who may not have thought of college as a pathway, get them into this pipeline of talent that we need so that we can develop that talent and make a skilled workforce that can do well in the post-pandemic economy, in which technology plays a significant role. Advanced manufacturing will play a significant role. Critical thinking and analysis will play a significant role. Workplace culture and how people interact with one another differently will play a different, a significant role.
I'm about to say preach.
Right? And so we know that things are going to be different now. So how do we prepare for these differences going forward? So at Temple, I can speak to, we're really doing a lot in terms of looking at how do we connect better to the community? How do we make sure that we're having an impact and influence on the thinking of high schools, partnering with the community colleges, partnering with corporations to understand better, what is the curriculum that we need to design for these students? So during the pandemic, I know within the accounting realm, what we've been doing is re-engineering every course, re-engineering the overall degree, looking at program learning outcomes. We've reorganized the entire Fox School of Business under Dean Ron Anderson. We've consolidated, merged some of our departments. We're doing a lot less silo approach to the way that you learn, a lot more cross-pollination, that you get exposure to different disciplines while you're there. And so if schools are not innovative, then the outcome of the students will not be impactful. So we have been doing our work during the pandemic to make sure that we have a high quality product education that is available to students. And I'm sure that's happening in other universities as well. I was
going to say, it should be, and not just universities, it should be happening universally in all industries, whether it's speaking and leadership industry, financial, insurance, hotel and restaurant man, whatever it is, they should be looking to be more innovative. But before I move forward, I'm having a VCR moment. Remember those video recorders, VCRs? You put the VHS tape in, and when you hit play, before it went forward, it would always go back.
Yes, sir.
I thought, I want to go back in the life of Dr. Wayne Williams right now. When you were young, like for me, I'm playing rock'em, sock'em, robots, electric football, all those types of things. Were you doing that, or were you reading tax returns? When did your love of accounting and finances, when did it start?
So for me, I loved to ride my bike. And so for me, when you say start, I would start with the greatest educational moment in my life. Despite all of the credentials I've been able to attain from school, the day my father actually taught me how to ride my bike, and I still cycle to this day.
How many times did you fall down in West Philly when you were riding that bike?
I just remember him. He was holding on. I remember the bar that was on the back of the bike.
Yes.
I don't even know if you're allowed to call it, but we called it back then. Yes. But he held that bar, and I said to him, he asked me, he said, "How come you're not riding your bike, further away?" And I didn't want to tell him that I didn't take my training wheels off, and I couldn't go as far as some of the other kids that were going over. We had a playground close by, and we could ride around the playground. And I didn't want to go over there because I had training wheels on. And so he discovered that I wasn't, going out with the other kids. And he said, "Come here, what's going on?" So I said, I don't know how to ride without my training wheels. So he got the wrench out, man, and he went to work and took the training wheels off. And he walked me away where there was no one around. I just remember there was nobody on this block. It was quiet. And, over there in West Philly, where we lived at, it was quiet. And there was no one on that block. There was no traffic. And he said, "All right, so now what I'm going to do is I want you to keep your head up straight, which is a lesson.
Yes,
I never
picked it
drop
out.
my
I
head.
caught it. I caught it.
I never drop my head when you see me. You will not see me with my head down. I'm keeping my head up. He said, you know, you have to keep your head up straight, and then I want you to keep pedaling, stay in motion. Stay in motion. And I'm going to hold on. So don't worry about falling. I got you.
I caught that too. I caught that. A mentor, a coach. Yes.
Yes, sir. So boom, we get going. And so I'm, hey, Daddy. Oh, Daddy, listen, I'm doing it, Dad. I got it. He said, you're doing good. You're doing good. So I can hear him. I'm talking to him. He's talking to me. I'm talking to him. He's talking to me. I'm talking to him. He don't say nothing. So I'm saying, where's Dad? and then I turned around and looked, and Dr. Smith, he wasn't there. So you know what I did? I fell. I fell and I started crying. And my dad ran up, he picked me up, and he said, hey, walk me back. And he said, we're going to start all over again. And I'm crying, no. And he said, you're all right? And I said, I'm all right. But he said, I'm not doing this anymore. He said, I'm going to stay with you. Don't worry about it. I'm going to stay with you. He said, you know you were riding that bike. So, of course, we went through that trial and error process a few more times. And I haven't stopped riding my bike since.
Beautiful.
And that's how I think about education. No one student is the same. For some students, they get on the bike and they don't even need their dad to show them. They just take the training wheels off themselves and they ride the bike. For most kids, they're going to need somebody to take the training wheels off, give them a lot of encouragement. The word encouragement has the prefix N. Courage is what we all need, right? But if you change that prefix to dis, now you have discourage.
Beautiful.
And discouragement is one of the major hurdles for students. I tell them, someone who says, I don't like math, I said, that's not true. They said, what do you mean? I don't like it. I said, no, you never had a good math experience. Because if you had a good math experience and you told the story like the one I told, you'd be all right getting the problem wrong, but it's, can I get you to get the problem right? And when you do, then you know. And when you know, then you go. So keep my head up, keeping that motion, that forward motion has been the lesson that I've learned. I thank my father, God rest his soul, for that motion, for that knowledge and that wisdom. He imparted it both to me and to my brother, who is also, I'm very proud of, an accountant. And I'm in tax and he is in audit. And my brother Trevor is a partner in a CPA firm down in Bethesda, Maryland. So shout out to Trevor, because he's also
shout out to the crew.
Right, and so, Dad, we grew up around him, and he is a Wharton grad himself and was an entrepreneur. And I think we caught the bug just in those car rides with him talking and explaining what we were seeing in a different context when we were growing up. And as a result, both Trevor and I went to Temple and graduated in accounting and went into different pathways, but we both are in the financial services industry. So thank you, Dad.
I love it. I love it. I love that you call it an experience. When I teach students, I tell them, do not use the word class. You're not coming to class, you're coming to an experience. So this is the last time you will use the word class, not even on your syllabus. I don't call it a class, it's an experience. And you just shared it. And you were talking about students. Now, before you went to Temple, you went someplace else. And I want to talk about the student in this picture. Tell me what that was like at age 16. Major campus, major university, Division I, University of Pittsburgh. What's happening in this picture? Talk to me. I see a castle on one leg. I see a confident 16-year-old. I'm sure the fraternities, the ladies, what was happening for you as a 16-year-old student pursuing I believe it was an engineering degree at first, and then accounting. Talk to me. We've done our research, Dr. Williams.
Yes, you have. That is awesome, man. Look at that cast. You know what? When I got to Pitt, I was 16 because Dr. Smith, I actually skipped twice. I think if I were a student today, I might be described as either being on the spectrum or autism. My father put me in mentally gifted programs. And so I was able to go to Masterman. I skipped, I went to a school that they had that was associated with the University of Pennsylvania. And so I had a lot of confidence and encouragement in academic excellence. And then, of course, I went to the renowned Central High School with your brother.
Central High School on the hill.
And I became a Lancer. And when you were a Lancer, they basically told you whatever you want to do, you could do it. And so they asked you, think about the person next to you. That person you're going to find is going to be running something later on. So
that is so opposite from the other theory. Look to your left, look to your right. Someone's not going to be here. It's so different. So speak to continue to speak to that experience.
Yeah. So in that last picture, I'll point out two things. One, I had a cast on. I was athletic, and so by being younger, I always had to compete with other guys by playing sports. So I was overly assertive. And
you had to be. You had that boom box. Look at that boom box.
And look, you got Raisin Bran there, man. I'm still eating Raisin Bran.
Radio Raheem. I see a little.
Isn't that something? Oh man, I got a sports car on the wall. Let's see back there, man. Food. I got. Let's see. We look. There's a picture of some beer. I was drinking beer in college. Man, so what's interesting is when I went there, I'm wearing one of the football players' cleats. He was one of the D-backs for University of Pittsburgh. When I got to Pitt, man, Dan Marino was the quarterback. But you talked about what happened at Central, and what happened at Central for me was I was actually good in mathematics, and so I had good scores in math. The challenge for me was I actually like mechanical drawing. So I wanted to be an architect, and I was encouraged to go into mechanical engineering because of the math.
Yes.
So I went into a program called Prime, and in Prime, that's when it was discovered that I went into engineering simply because it was what I was advised to do, because the salary would have been higher, but it wasn't my passion. I love to draw. I still draw in my notes. People look at my notes that I'm taking during meetings. They say, "Why are you drawing pictures?" I use the same skills in the classroom at whatever university I'm teaching at Temple. I'm using drawings in order to explain complex problems. So the mechanical drawing is now a part of my pedagogy in terms of my delivery. The math and the quantitative components that I had, I was naturally gifted. I'm not going to say that, I was, this studying. I was naturally gifted in mathematics. Wow. So, again, having the type of parents, my mother played a role in that. She said, "I always knew you would do something with math." I did numbers. My mom would write her bills out on paper, and I would look and see the numbers, and I would go with her to the supermarket and add up all of the items that she put in the basket. And this is back when there was no UPC, the scan bar, and then, I would tell the cash register how much the bill was, and they would be shocked. I'd be 9, 10 years old. I say, "It's going to be $27.32. And ladies say, "Did he just say that?" And so I've always just had a numerical mind. So, being in accounting, the numbers are kind of natural to me. But my father was a storyteller. And so the way I'm connecting all of these dots are the mechanical drafting allows for me to visualize big picture, see things in the big picture. The engineering makes me, when I study that, even though I changed my major, it's about problem solving. I use that.
Yes.
My father and his storytelling is important because that is the way that I actually instruct. I do it through the use of stories, because stories, as you pointed out before we came on air, that's what sticks. People remember the story, right? And so in that way, I'm able to present the logic of the equations, but I do it in a way where the students remember a story.
You're singing my song, lyrics, facts fade, stories stick. Since we're talking about students, and I know you have your undergrad from Temple, your master's from Widener, and your doctorate from Penn. And we have two of those schools in common, both Widener and Temple. Great minds sometimes think alike. But back in the chat room, the question about students, it says, what should accounting major graduates know entering into that industry upon graduation? Let me read it again. What should accounting major graduates know entering into that industry upon graduation? Will the tassel be worth the hassle?
Oh, yes. That's a great question. So a few things. One, accounting is in demand. It is one of the most demanded subject matters. Within the business school, because it is quite quantitative, a lot of students are scared away from it, thinking that it's all about numbers, when in fact, it is really about the numbers telling the story. So it is not really very complicated math once you get into accounting. So you will not necessarily be just doing numbers. We have Excel spreadsheets that help to do that kind of quantitative reasoning, right? But it is the categorization of the financial statements and the rules. Accounting is the language of business. So what we do is we provide the dashboard for all of the leadership within business. In other words, imagine driving a car with no dashboard. You don't know how much gas, you don't know how fast you're going, you don't know how far you can go, right? And so the accounting is the dashboard. It provides a narrative around what are the resources that you have available. So accounting students have to come out and think. Another element of it is ethics and integrity, very high in the accounting realm. We need to stay true to the facts. So with accounting, what people kind of think is rigid or the rigidity of accounting, actually, it is actually being able to document what it is that you actually place as the answer that you present on the dashboard. You don't want your dashboard to look like you're going faster than what you are. You want it to actually be exactly what it is, what speed you're going. So accounting helps to do that. Ethics and integrity for accounting students is important. We want them to have good values going into the system because they're looking at big numbers, right? Industry in this economy is what, $15 trillion. So $15 trillion economy, accountants are exposed to business, right? But they're exposed to business from the perspective of what is happening financially and how do you properly report the financial health of those enterprises, whether it's a big business, a small business, or an individual. It's telling the story as it is. So accountants that are graduating, you have the opportunity to study the CPA exam. That credential puts you in a realm much like an attorney or a doctor. If you get that CPA exam behind you, it's best that you study it and get it done as soon as you graduate because the percentage of completion rate for the CPA is much higher when you get done. Once you get working in accounting, it's much more difficult to study for which quite rigorous exam. But there are many other credentials that have emerged that are also important. Their technology is now synonymous with accounting. So we are now using robotics, artificial intelligence, and there is the certified information systems auditor that helps accounting firms help companies with their audit and their IT audit and cybersecurity. So accountants are playing multiple different roles. The CPA exam is changing in 2024. It will comprise basically 3 components. It will be audit, taxation, and technology. And so accountants are going to play a vital role for business going forward because business is innovating, but the rules are changing according to those innovations. So accounting never stops. You never stop learning. So I would say an accounting graduate, hassle for the tassel. Remember, they call the ceremony for graduation commencement.
Dropping pearls, dropping pearls. Are you taking notes? Are you with us? Dr. Williams, I'm going to go back to the chat room. There's another question. It says, would you say affordability of higher education in the United States is a deterrent to 17, 18-year-olds? What are the efforts Temple has enacted to help resolve this problem?
Beautiful. Great question. So I would say now we're in an inflationary environment, right? So we've got the Federal Reserve Chair, we've got the CPI, which is the Consumer Price Index, has reported out at 7.5%. It's the highest inflation in the last 40 years. People are feeling it in their pocketbook. Affordability is a real issue for 17, 18-year-olds. Just spoke with a counselor at Central High School, Robin Hart, and she told me that more than she's ever seen before, students are opting to go to community college immediately coming out of high school simply to address the affordability issue. That is a wise decision. It is not an affront to Temple University. I think of community college as your prom and Temple as your wedding. Right, so when you go
drop
to somebody's house,
drop it. Right, keep picking that mic up.
Yes, sir. So I worked for 15 years at Community College of Philadelphia, and there you learn how to be a student. You come to Temple University in your 3rd year, and that 3rd year, you are already in your major. That is when you are serious and applying your principles of study into your degree. And so community college is vital. They have the Octavius Cato scholarship there, and that makes it free if you are eligible for it here at Community College of Philadelphia. So we have at Temple articulation agreements with all of the 5 major community colleges in the region. We also have a program called Before You Soar. That program is focused in on exposing high school students in Philadelphia to life at community college. I work with students in the National Association of Black Accountants, which is a student organization on campus, as well as a national organization for professionals. Our students actually go in and work with high school students to tell them about their story, right? Absolutely. How did you choose Temple? What is your major? How did you make that choice of a major? And what are your intentions in your career? I think more than anything else, what I want parents to think about is that accounting is now, or education now, is more flexible than it has ever been before.
How so?
One thing I'd ask you to do is the next time you meet somebody and you say, what did you do? And look at their maybe LinkedIn profile and see what their undergraduate degree in and see what they're doing now.
Yes.
And it could be completely different. So I want to make sure that people understand that the experience that you get going to undergraduate studies is the most important element. It is the development of you into an adult. It is also the development of higher level thinking for a young person. So this is the only opportunity in your lifetime you're going to get a chance to read books for a living.
Absolutely.
Right? And so when you fill out your tax return, your occupation is student. And I always ask students, if your occupation is student, then what do you do for a living? And so the etymology of that word says you're supposed to be studying.
Yeah,
And so that opportunity is something that I think we need to encourage more of. We live in a world now where information is prevalent everywhere.
It's free.
But it is not structured. It is not given context and frame that you get when you pursue a college degree, which then in turn creates value. You're going to be able to communicate, which is your specialty, much better if you have a college experience in terms of the way that you write, in terms of the way that you speak, in terms of the way that you interact, even with small conversations, by you going to college, that helps that development so that when we graduate you, you are a learned member of society.
Love it, love it, love it. I know why your students are crazy about you. I did my research. Nothing but in those recommendations, endorsements. He's awesome. He's direct. He's right on point. I would do it all again. I wanted to hire him in my own company. You are changing the game.
Thank you,
the
sir.
chat room is blowing up. There's another one that says, do you think the economy, specifically the African-American economy, has ever recovered from the Tulsa, Oklahoma race massacre in 1921, where the early 20th century African Americans had created a self-sufficient, prosperous business district known as Black Wall Street that was destroyed and never rebuilt? So I guess the question is basically saying, what are your thoughts about what happened then, the impact that it's had, and have we recovered?
So I'm going to say that there's a documentary that I participated in. It's called District Greenwood. The documentary maker is Mr. Alston, and Hershey Alston. He created a documentary specifically about this event. And myself and even Dr. Lamont Hill, Mark Lamont Hill, he also was a participant in it. So these photographs are, there's a lot going on here. We're talking about a time period, right, in which we're in Oklahoma, right? And so Oklahoma is an important component of African-American economics history because that is the place where we were supposed to get the 40 acres and a mule. So that is why you have African-Americans in Oklahoma. They're called the Sooners because the date that we were allowed to claim the land that we took, whatever we were able to claim in that portion of the country, they allowed folks to get in there sooner. Hence the term Oklahoma Sooners. We came later. So we were given less land and we were consolidated. And there is a man who basically helped to build this area that was called Black Wall Street. Called Black Wall Street because it funded things like Frederick Douglass and his abolition experiences, funded things like the Urban League or the equivalent of that back when we had Booker T. Washington. These were where you had a concentration of millionaires because the dollar would circulate within that community more than 20 times before it went outside. So we had every type of business. However, the question that is asked is, have we recovered?
Yes.
40 years or 50 years from that period in which that riot and massacre took place, what we see is the emergence of civil rights. And the consequence of civil rights was integration. Right. And so if you talk to, our parents, Dr. Smith, they would talk about coming from rural South, coming from communities in which everything was segregated and concentrated. And so there was already Black entrepreneurship that existed. Once we did the Great Migration and moved northward, we then integrated into the existing manufacturing economy of urban enclaves. In that arena, what happened was we lost some of our farming and agricultural components. We lost some of our entrepreneurial components because then we entered into the labor force as employees. So I would like to consider this period that we live in now integration 2.0. So
nice.
50 years from there, we now see the emergence of Black entrepreneurs who already had the talent like yourself, but now have the platform and the skill set in order to create a whole new level of entrepreneurship for African Americans in the current economy. And we see that it's being led, for the most part by women, which of course it was led by Madam C.J. Walker, even back then, who was the first Black female millionaire. So I kind of see this as integration 2.0. And that last one, we were traditionally employees and we were in the blue collar arena. Now we are in the white collar professions and we are entrepreneurs and beginning to build businesses that have broad appeal. So now we have businesses that are not just for African Americans, but they serve all Americans and even international customer base. So this is our next phase of the economy as African Americans. We have great promise, great hope. And so what we need to develop is the skill set to be successful. And if we don't have that, we need to hire those individuals that have those skills. If you don't have an attorney and an accountant and you're a business person, you are already entering into an arena without the necessary armor and skills that you need in order to survive in that arena. So even if you don't have those things, you need to make sure that you're looking to African American professionals to provide that level of support. I will get someone like you to come to any event that I'm having because you are inspirational to a crowd. So you are the person that we need to have at the forefront to help motivate and encourage others to go out and seek authenticity, to become leaders, because leadership is actually a developed skill. It is not something that you have when you were born, right? You could be born with it, right? But you can develop that skill set and it needs to be constantly nurtured or else it will not grow. And if it doesn't grow, our economy is dynamic and it is constantly growing. So just the idea of going to college is one thing that allows for, like you, who could have stopped, who was already successful. You got a doctorate degree. And why did you do it? Because you are a lifelong learner.
If this was a halftime talk in the locker room, I'm ready to go out there and hit some. This is good. This is good. I love learning. I love speaking. Yeah. I love telling stories. You, based on what I've learned, love financial literacy. I want you to talk a little bit about that, the significance of it, what it means in the future. But before we do, we have a brief clip of you talking about financial literacy.
Yeah.
Financial literacy is the ability to use knowledge and skills to manage financial resources effectively for a lifetime of financial well-being. About 2/3 of Americans are financially illiterate. It turns out to be an economic burden of about over $300 billion to our economy just for the mistakes that people make in financial decision making. If you look back to the 20th century, literacy rates for reading and writing were very low. And you could see that they really had a profound uptick. And what happened is we really built our economy based upon our ability to educate and make our citizenry literate. If we were to take that same knowledge of that history and then translate it into financial literacy in the 21st century, imagine what would happen to our economy overall. It would have the same opportunity for that tremendous amount of growth. If you think about it, you could go to college, get a degree, and graduate and still not know how an insurance policy works, really not understand what a mutual fund is, not be able to really look at a mortgage document and understand it with a certain sense of confidence. And so we're missing this as an educational component.
Dr. Williams talked to us about financial literacy. I saw you watching it. You were getting all fired up too. Talk to us about the significance of financial literacy. As you said, 2/3. That's a lot.
Yeah. You know, when you wake up in the morning and if you wear glasses, you can see, but you can't see good. And if you put your glasses on to read, everything becomes clear, right? And so I literally think about this all the time. There is so much misinformation and disinformation and get rich quick schemes that people have access to. They don't have the capacity to understand what they don't know. And now it is vitally important, because we are integration 2.0. We don't have the benefits of a job that you work for 30 years with benefits and a pension. And that 30 years is tied to a 30-year mortgage. And that retirement is tied to when you probably started in that company and you had the opportunity to retire, and when you were eligible for Social Security at 65. My mother, God bless her, she's 91. How do you prepare to live if you're going to retire early? If you live into your 90s, how much money do you need to have, right? Retirement in financial, the services industry is described as financial independence. You can retire when you can afford to, not work anymore. No, has nothing to do with your age, right? The only thing that has to do with your age is the time value of money, which Albert Einstein said is man's greatest invention is compounding interest. If we can get people to save money early, in other words, young people need to understand how it works, because they don't have a pension, because they can't rely on a Social Security check to live the lifestyle they're envisioning. They're going to have to make financial decisions about how to save for retirement, pay for their home, have a family, provide for their family, make good financial decisions along the way, create a lifestyle that brings them happiness along the way. Without the skills acquired in school, what we're doing is setting up people that, regardless of your age, Dr. Smith, I have people who say, I have to tell them how to read their paycheck.
Wow.
Right? Regardless of age, right? Because you don't know what all of those acronyms and why it came out and what's the rate of tax and how does taxation actually work and what's going on with inflation and where do I put my money if I have the money? What type of major do I choose? What is the salary? What is the lifetime earnings associated with that decision? Will I be able to supplement it? Can I go into business? Do I have enough capital to go into business myself? How am I going to capitalize the business? What are the risks associated with that? Where am I going to have health insurance? The number one reason for personal financial bankruptcy is that a person doesn't have health insurance. Who knows when we're going to have an accident? Imagine having an accident and you don't have health insurance, or discovering, God forbid, that you have a health issue that was underlying and you don't have health insurance. It wipes away all of the assets that you had, right? So insurance being fundamental in the foundation, who's going to teach you that unless you actually begin to explore that in school as a component of your education? So I try to take any course that I'm teaching, even if it's accounting, and make it relatable back to the person so that they don't see it as something that you're doing for other people. But I was told by one of my professors, even if you can't teach anybody what you learn, Wayne, make sure you use it on yourself. Right? So if you think about this fact, and I always make students think about this, the average salary for one of our Fox School undergrads is about probably around $50,000.
Nice.
Right? It's upward of that. It's probably over that. And I'm probably understating. It depends on your major.
Are you talking newly graduate or someone?
Newly graduated.
Okay.
Yep. All right. So we're talking now you're 22, 25 years old, somewhere in here, right? So I asked them, how long are you going to work? So if you're making $50,000 and you never got a raise, and you worked until from 25 to 65, which that's not what's going to happen. You're going to earn increasingly more money. But from 25 to 65 is 40 years. 40 years times 50,000 is $2 million. So anybody who's an adult, even if you don't go to college and you go to high school and you start working, as a young person, by the time if you live long enough, you're going to earn more than $1 million in your lifetime. Here's the rub. What did you do with the million? If you spent it all, you don't have any money left, right? So you get the money, but if you don't know how to reduce the taxes on the money, you don't know how to make wise investment choices, you don't know how to put money away and see it compound over time and turn yourself into a millionaire, you think millionaire is one thing or one act that you have to do, and it happens, as Thomas Gladwell puts it, in a blink of an eye. But it's not the blink. It's the work you did before it happened. And so financial literacy helps you manage your money and make financial decisions which are going to happen. It's not if it will happen, it's when it will happen. And so I think just like reading, it's like living life without knowing this all-important component of life in your daily living.
That's huge. That's huge. Also huge is tax season. You know, January is for new beginnings, February, Valentine's Day for lovers, March, Women's History Month, and March Madness, and April is tax season. What are some things that we need to do to prepare for tax filing, and what are some changes that will affect tax filers this upcoming tax season? It's tax season, tension, convention. Can a doctor help us out?
Yeah, so now you're in my world. So, okay, first one, April 18th. April 18th, not the 15th. So the 15th is a national holiday and DC holiday, and so April 18th is the deadline. Second one, your stimulus payment. So now your stimulus payment is an economic impact payment. So make sure you Google IRS EIP. EIP stands for Economic Impact Payment. You go on there and you find out how much your stimulus was if you were eligible for it in 2021. It's there for you. You must have that number correctly when you file this year. So make sure you get that. Another important thing that people miss is your bank and your financial institutions. If you have a mortgage, if you have investment accounts, they're emailing those accounts, and you have to log in and pull down the forms that they used to send in the mail. So you're looking for them in the mail, and you're saying, I don't have it. You have to go into your account and pull down what's called tax documents, and they will give you your 2021 tax documents. Then the most important thing is to get organized. And how I put it is, if you ask me to fix a leak in my bathroom, not going to do it. Got to call the pro, right?
That's right.
If your tax is too complicated and you don't understand it, then you need to get help.
Can they call you? Can they call you?
Well, they cannot call me.
Because you're at Temple nonstop. I don't know if you have time to help out the relatives and the friends and the frat brothers.
Right. But let me tell you who they can call. The National Association of Black Accountants has a number of gifted, talented African Americans that are out here. The American Institute of CPAs here in Pennsylvania, we have the PICPA, the Pennsylvania Institute of CPAs. You just go in onto the search and say, I'm looking for an accountant. You have that. If you're looking for a financial advisor, the Certified Financial Planning Board, same thing. Where's a financial advisor in my area? You get the professional help that you need. Number one way to get professional help is to ask someone who they use. As you know, the best source of marketing is a referral. So if you know someone who's successful that you emulate, that you want to be like, find out who their accountant is. That's who you want to have as your accountant, right? Because they're helping that person along. You want to emulate what they're doing. So we do VITA at Temple. So I do this. I help out through the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program. We provide it at Temple's campus for our staff, students, and faculty members. And then we also provide it in Ambler at our Ambler campus for the community on Saturdays. And so you can also go to Temple Vita, VITA, and you can sign up. And if your income is under $55,000 or thereabout, you can be eligible to get free tax help. Also in Philadelphia, there are free programs in most communities for you to get free tax filing if you're below that threshold of $55,000. I work with the City of Philadelphia Revenue Department. You can also reach out to the City of Philadelphia. They have access to resources that will guide you to get help with your taxes, but don't go it alone and don't suffer from the paralysis of analysis. So Dr. Smith, thank you for letting me tell people, go get someone to give you help, get organized, right? And ask questions. The key to financial literacy is that you make yourself vulnerable to learning. And the only way you're going to learn is if you ask questions. Don't feel embarrassed by not knowing. It's more embarrassing to not know. The mistakes are far more costly. And so you want to ask for help.
Asking for help. Let me sneak this in there real quick because we're coming toward the end. From a diversity perspective, different demographic groups, do you think different groups think differently about financial literacy or about money or about economics?
Definitely. And most of it is cultural. And so I would say it starts at home. So I wouldn't even put it just within the context of racial context. Yeah. I'll give you an example. If you are from an Afro-Caribbean, you're different than an African-American.
Sure.
If you are Hispanic and you grew up here in the United States, you are different than Hispanic that came from different parts of Central America, South America, and throughout the Afro-Latino community. If you are Asian, if you are, depending where you are within that Asian, if you're East Asian, if you're Pan-Asian, right? They all have different cultural values in the way that they think about money. And so even if you are just an American, you're a white American here. If you are Jewish, you may have different cultural values than Irish, than Italian, right? Than Polish, than someone from the Slavic nations. So we all are different, but what is the same is the economy in which we participate. So what's universally true, regardless of it, is that you need to actually increase your financial acumen in order for you to be able to make better decisions. Now, with regard to African Americans, I'm passionate about this. I hope to serve and have had to serve as a role model for others, right? When people think of accounting, and they think of accountants, they think of boring, right?
Yes.
No personality, just
number
sitting
cruncher,
behind piles of paper, and just a terrible thing. It's exciting. Like I said, it's like being able to see things completely through a different lens. However, National Association of Black Accountants, founded in 1969, we're over 50 years. This is our 53rd year. We have a new president. Her name is Ghislaine St. Just. We're trying to increase the pipeline of talent into financial services, technology, and business for African-American students. So what I generally see is we pick majors that are socially, that are associated with the social sciences, because those are the things that happen to us.
That's
right?
Good.
So
that's good.
Social work, psychology, mental health, these are the things that have happened, trauma happened to us, so we want to major in it. I'm saying there's an opportunity for you because there are undeveloped skills and there is hidden talent, like hidden figures inside of you. You need to venture out of your comfort zone. Be encouraged to pursue something, explore it. Come to our Accounting Career Awareness Program through the National Association of Black Accountants, NABA ACAP. Type it in, NABA Philly ACAP. Look for the upcoming application if you're in high school. Just come do a 2-week residency, learn about accounting, learn about being a financial advisor, learn about working on Wall Street. There's an opportunity that exists within this realm. Less than 1% of all the CPAs in the United States are African American. We're 13% of the population. There are about 5,000 CPAs. You see a black CPA, you're looking at a unicorn. Less than 2,000 of the certified financial planners in the United States are African American. So less than 5% of all of the certified financial planners in the United States are African American. We are 41 million strong. And I'm talking numbers like 5,000 and 2,000. We have to build the ranks because guess what, Dr. Smith? I can't do it by myself.
I love it. I love it. Dr. Williams, I can't believe it. Time is running away from us. And I've been thinking while you've been talking, I'm going to come on campus, find your office and pick you up and take you to the National Speakers Association, bring you into my world because you're putting it down. You're putting it down. And I'm going to give you an opportunity to put it down one more time. We always end the show, since I'm a speaker, with our guests speaking or giving us a MINI, a mini keynote presentation. I want you to look into that camera, get a little closer if you want to. You're going to speak to people, students, practitioners, scholars, professionals, entrepreneurs. Give them 30 seconds of your best encouragement relative to finances and financial literacy for today and in the future. Mic check, mic check. The next voice we'll hear will be that of Dr. Wayne Williams with his mini keynote.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. Financial literacy is imperative. It's even more imperative for those who are underrepresented and underserved. We need to increase the pipeline of talent into the study of business management and all of the various principles associated with business. We can't just be entrepreneurs without understanding how business actually works. Business is, in fact, a field of study. It's just as unique and relevant as law or medicine or engineering or the social sciences. If you never thought about it before, I'm asking you to think about it now. Understanding the numbers helps you see the story differently. We live in a time where people see things and what they see are what other people say. They don't even say what it is that they see. When you're able to see clearly using a financial lens by increasing your financial acumen, then you're going to increase your overall financial well-being. And it has its benefits because it is a well-lived life.
Dr. Wayne Williams, financial whisperer, professor, all around phenomenal human being from West Philly. Are you guys getting that from the folks I'm bringing on from West Philly? What?
West Philly in the house.
They're making it happen. Dr. Williams, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So much for that temple-made presentation and sharing real stuff with us. Not just something we can get in the newspaper or Google. You gave us real life advice. So thank you for that. We got to bring you back. We got to bring you back. You just got started with us.
All right. Now, listen, Dr. James Smith, I want to tell you, I'm a fan. Keep doing what you're doing. You are a motivator. You have a wonderful reputation. Everywhere you go, you have touched lives. So you are an important asset to our community. Grateful for the work that you've done. Grateful for the courage that you've taken. Tell your big head brother that I love him and that I hope to see him soon.
All right, I will. And for those of you who joined us again, we thank you for making the time, taking the time, now utilizing the time to use what you gleaned today. Ask yourself, how am I going to adapt it, adopt it, and apply it to what I currently do? And like I always say, you've just been Jim-pacted. We'll see you later.